has.
So my car now thinks it's a normal GT3 because the normal GT3 has a fixed wing. So when you start my car, it's got a wing logo on it. So it's very confused. It's schizophrenic, my car, bless it.
Every time you see one, whether it be a new looking one or an old one or a rusty one, it just brings joy to your face because those big eyes.
As I want the gear stick from it, including the 6-gate, to actually be the flush.
Would that be for different levels of flush? Would sort of first
Exactly.
gear
So you
be...
do gate 1 for a wee, and obviously gate 2. You put it into second gear for...
Hello and welcome to episode 41 of the Collecting Addicts podcast with Neil Clifford, Edward Lovett, Chris Cooper and Manish Pandey. Straight to business. Apple Carplay. There's a man here who needs to get something off his chest. It's a significant chest because he's a significant man. He's called Neil Clifford. Neil Clifford, show us your tits. Sorry, I mean, tell us about Apple Carplay.
Well, when this thing became public, when was it? 3 or 4 years ago? CarPlay.
Much longer than that.
I think it was 2017, actually.
Much longer ago than that.
Well, that's 5 years ago, isn't it? Or 6. Anyway, I thought it was the most magical invention because you could get your Spotify in your car. This Waze thing was amazing, although I think a lot of people use Google Maps. I think the whole thing was wonderful. And then a bit like Instagram and a bit like me, I don't do Facebook or LinkedIn, but certainly Instagram is too addictive. I think I've become too addicted to it. And I feel now slightly negative towards CarPlay. And I'm trying to cold turkey off the bloody thing because when you start looking at a car, like I did with that beautiful Alpina, it's lovely that it's got clear glass. It's lovely that it's the Alpina green. It's stickers. I debadged it. But then I was obsessed with, has it got CarPlay? Would I buy the car if it didn't have CarPlay? And now I'm starting to think about converting cars that don't have CarPlay, these £1,000 additional units that you go down to the wonderful people at Auto Audio and they stick a CarPlay unit in your car. And then I was thinking, actually, it's bloody annoying, this CarPlay. Have they made it too addictive? Can we tolerate it? Has it made OEM sat-navs redundant?
Yes.
Someone said to me the other day, they went to Porsche and they got picked up for their factory visit and they were going to go and do their PTS thing and spend, another 50 grand on an ST over list. And you get picked up from the factory. Some of us have been lucky to have that. And there it is, the brand new Panamera GT sausage that he's parked outside of the airport. And he's got CarPlay. He's an employee of Porsche, and he's not using the sat-nav that Porsche have diligently spent hundreds of millions of pounds created. So I think CarPlay is a worry to me. That's my problem with CarPlay.
Interesting.
Does the Alpina have it?
I had to pay 250 quid. It was in the car. This is the most ridiculous thing. It was in the car, but it wasn't enabled. And you had to pay BMW
an enablement
Apple
fee.
CarPlay. I think
That's
I did some sort of slightly...
That's a bit like Chris Cooper's sense of humour.
You had to take it to BMW.
You have to go, here, out you come, out you come.
I had to
But
go
once
to BMW.
it's there, it's
for
funnier
them
in
to
the front,
enable it.
I always find.
Is that the same, Neil? We were talking about that because BMW put this sort of paying £2 a month to have heated seats. So they done the same thing.
No, it wasn't that. I think my car's an 18 plate. I think the later cars have got all the options hidden away and you have to pay them on direct debit or some shit like that. This just you had to pay some sort of subscription or one-off fee, which I had to do because lo behold, I had a car without bloody CarPlay. But I'm worried about this addiction.
I'm worried for you.
Yeah. And I'm very interested what my colleagues think about that.
Yeah.
Well, you did have a win the other day because you have upgraded one of your cars with AirPlay or
CarPlay,
AirPlay.
yes. The
Apple.
Range Rover. Yeah, the Range Rover. And it went off to my lovely Greg at Auto Audio. This was a car that's a 2018 Range Rover, which
Auto
actually
Audio.
I saved myself £100,000 by installing CarPlay in the Range Rover, which is the previous model, which is in fact exactly the same as the new one, although better because it has buttons. So I've now actually saved £99,000 by installing CarPlay into that car.
Yeah, I've saved that £99,000 often myself.
Yes.
I don't really use. Is it AirPlay or CarPlay?
CarPlay.
CarPlay.
Well, evidently you don't.
No. Well, I don't use it, and I actually quite enjoy the moment of confusion when you get in a new car and realise, right, I need the nav sorted, and especially in a rental car because it's
Do you really enjoy that, Edward? Do you really enjoy getting into an Alfa Romeo and trying to work the sat nav on it?
I haven't been in one of those.
I mean, it's like saying you like rubbing salt on certain glands. I don't.
Well,
think
when you get, I think the best test is when you get into a rental car, isn't it? Because when you get into a rental car, it's like going through. I have to go through an airport at speed. And when I get into a rental car, the moment you've turned it on, right, I need the nav, I need the seat adjusted, mirrors adjusted, and I want to leave in about 30 seconds.
Yep.
It's like a Formula One pit stop.
Check.
Which that's probably where Apple Play would, or CarPlay, sorry, would sort me out. But I have to go in and configure it, obviously, from German to English or whatever country I'm in.
Can I play devil's advocate?
Most of them have CarPlay now. Most of them have CarPlay.
They do. I play devil's advocate. So Apple CarPlay was probably inevitable. Isn't it a bit weird that every car maker has their own sat nav? It's a bit strange, but they all go out and spend all this money. And when a car maker spends money developing some software, we pay for it. They don't just give it to us for fun or for free. So they all go out and they make effectively the same product to go in their cars. I'm sure they're buying the same mapping from the same people. There must be a central mapping.
Yeah.
Either Apple or Google or whoever owns Google. Someone else probably owns, a third party owns the data to Google Maps. Probably.
NASA or something.
Yeah, something like that. And then once they've done that, I don't see why you wouldn't have a sort of proprietary piece of technology that everyone could use. Because it's not like SatNav delivers any great quirks. There's no brand values. You can't have your brand values speak through your individual SatNav. You could do. People tried to. I mean, don't forget, didn't TomTom got Jeremy Clarkson to do the entire England, didn't they? And then they found the BBC said he couldn't do it, so they could never launch it. I think it works incredibly well in cars as a product. I think it's really quite well resolved. And I we'll show this now, but I just forwarded something to this group here on our WhatsApp that Porsche is the first brand to actually work with Apple CarPlay. I think it has its own dashboard now come through the Apple CarPlay. So you'll be able to view what's going on with your vehicle through Apple CarPlay, which I think is an incredible development. And I really do. The other thing about Apple CarPlay that has to be acknowledged is, it's become part of the furniture when it's listed high up on the attributes of a used car. If you go on to Auto Trader now, Apple CarPlay comes like third or fourth. After the fact it's got wheels and some glass, they're saying it's got Apple CarPlay because they know it makes it attractive.
Is that true also on collecting cars as well? Did they show rated that high up?
The boss didn't know what Apple CarPlay was. He's been calling it AirPlay.
Yeah.
That might change.
Monday morning in the office, everyone together.
I had a little read yesterday on the Apple website. And is it true that next year, when you plug in or Bluetooth your CarPlay, if you've got a digital dashboard, you can actually have an Apple Dash? I mean, can you imagine taking it to that level? I mean, that is kind of nuts, isn't it?
I can easily see it happening. Yeah, I can see it.
That's what it says. 2024, you'll be able to configure your car's dashboard as a kind of Apple dashboard, including your, I guess, speedometer, odometer, you name it, it will be there. So what we'll have is, if you think about it, you might well get into your rental car, Edward, if you ever get into AirPlay, and you'll find that you can just make every dashboard look like one of, and I bet you can customize it. I mean, that'll be the thing, won't it? You'll hold up your iPad, you'll go,
you can do it
I
now.
want a bigger, I want a bit smaller this, I want a bigger that.
I've got one other admission to make. My lovely old knackered GT3 Touring, which is long in the leg now, had Apple CarPlay when it was new. But I don't like the spoiler going up on 991s from behind. I think it looks very ugly. It's like a panel's fallen off it. So because it's out of warranty and old now, I got my friend in Litchfield to find a way through the ECU to stop the spoiler going up. And this was quite tricky, but we worked it out. So my car now thinks it's a normal GT3 because the normal GT3 has a fixed wing. So when you start my car, it's got a wing logo on it. So it's very confused. It's schizophrenic, my car, bless it, and it thinks it's not got a retractable wing. But I lost my Apple CarPlay in the process. I don't know why, but we've frazzled the brain and it's gone. You can't have a Touring that thinks it's a non-Touring that has Apple CarPlay, and I really miss the CarPlay.
That is weird.
Really, really miss it because
I would have the spoiler coming up and have the CarPlay.
Yeah, because you can't see the spoiler coming up.
I don't like the spoiler coming up. It looks so crap.
I agree with you. 992 is even worse.
Yeah. But only 50% of the world, and well, UK is 50%. Probably the world is uses Apple. So what about the people if you've got a Samsung phone or a Google phone or
there's
whatever?
an Android, there's an Android equivalent. Like there's an Android version as well where you can just use your phone again. Go on, Chris Cooper's got the Finger of Truth and Justice out.
I've never seen Star Wars. Is a modern idiom to help convey the extraordinary ludicrousness of an individual who has never seen or enjoyed or experienced a thing. I've never used CarPlay.
Haven't you?
Until this weekend. And I'll tell you what I think about it in a minute, but there are two reasons why that state of affairs exists. The first one is, it's a bit like that thing when somebody says to you, oh, you got to meet my friend. Oh, you'll love my friend. Oh, he's great. Everyone loves my friend. He's brilliant. He's really good at his job. He's got such a nice house. Everyone loves him. You think, I won't. And you just think, I'm going to find every reason I can not to like your friend.
This is your contrarianism again.
It's my contrarianism again. It's my sort of skepticism of life. And I think it's a healthy motive and motivation, which has resulted in this. The other reason is, and this is a weird one, and both of you kind of touched on it so far, there is something about the sort of the experience of, a nice a Land Rover or a Porsche of when you use the interface, it's their interface. And if you've been in another car and you get back into a Porsche and you think the graphics and the little Porsche badge which shows where the dealer is on the sort of, there's something about that that says, this is my whole experience. But it was just thinking about this question, I thought, because Lynn, my wife, uses CarPlay, and I had to admit to her, alongside admitting that I had been out blowing leaves again, I had to admit to her that I hadn't used CarPlay. So we had a tutorial this weekend. It's quite good, isn't it?
Oh,
it's really good.
Had you deliberately avoided it, or
it's a really good question. I had tried it. If I'm honest, I'd sort of literally tried it for a second. I thought, oh, the map's the wrong way up, and the little sort of rotary thing doesn't. Oh, I can't be bothered. And I sort of reconciled myself that my mate's really good friend really was a bit. So I didn't really try it. So this weekend we had a tutorial, and I have to say it's quite clever, isn't it?
Did you just use the sat nav, or did you use?
No, we used everything. So we used we were, because Lynn came with me to this sort of strategy away day thing we had this weekend. 2 days down in Cornwall, and so one of our sons, Finley, texted on the way back, and you can press a button and you can hear the text and you can reply. Who knew?
Did you use Siri? Did you use Siri? Did you talk to this thing and get it doing what you wanted?
I think she might have been talking to someone in the car who wasn't me.
You don't need Siri to do the text thing, replying. It does it automatically.
Yeah, it's really clever. And the Waze thing where it says there's a a policeman person from the local constabulary.
Yes.
Ossifer, somewhere up the road.
By the way, Apple Maps works best on Apple CarPlay, unsurprisingly.
Does it? Okay. Apple Maps, okay, I'm going to make a note of this.
I've got a particular problem, an addiction with Waze that I actually want to get myself off, because I leave home very early, 4:47, I get up at 4:47, leave the house 5:15. I'm putting in Waze every morning to get to Camden for 6:07.
Yeah.
There's never any traffic, but I'm paranoid that the
There
day
might be.
I don't do it, the
On the
M25 will be closed.
Yeah.
So
And
I've got this anxiety about the non-Waze journey.
So I had that anxiety. Oddly enough, I had that anxiety today because I was thinking about, because it says, well, there's a little policeman person, little logo. It says policeman spotted for those sort of camera van things. I'm thinking, and I know there are camera vans on the A30 a lot, and there weren't any little policeman person logos on the little journey thing. And I thought, there must be. Is it working? I sort of tapped the screen. Is it working? And I thought about my colleague thinking, those who would use this facility, they would never get stopped for speeding. They would never have that problem with, points or anything on their licenses.
Never.
So I was a bit worried that it wasn't working. So I think you can get hypnotized by, yes, but there might be one there. So I can sort of see through you, Neil. And I often find this. I can see through you my future.
I'm planning to have a month off in the run-up to Christmas.
When? Sorry, okay. A month
A
off
month,
before
but the
Christmas.
whole of December I may not use CarPlay.
Okay, so I'm going to have a month off in January. Right, okay.
I thought you were about to have a month off work. How do you do that?
Not in
There's
December.
no way I'm sorry, Neil. I want to support you in this, but there's no way you can have a month off.
No, not CarPlay. No, I think it's difficult. Yeah.
It's there.
This is one for another podcast, Chris, but you mentioned TomTom there. We should talk about technologies that have come in that are now redundant in the automotive world.
Traffic Master. Do you remember Traffic Master?
Oh,
I used to like Traffic Master. You could speak to someone.
Traffic Master.
I used to love that.
Mm.
Well, have anyone else got anything to add on CarPlay?
Well, I'm converted. I'm evangelical now.
Oh, yeah.
It's brilliant. Have you got it in your Panamera?
Yeah. There's a button there and everything.
But you've
Now I
never
know
used it.
It's going to be the smudged bit on the screen now.
Unbelievable. Well, there you go. Apple Car AirPlay, whatever Edward calls it, is a fantastic invention. Now, moving on. What is the happiest looking car? Now, there aren't that many happy looking cars. And to be really, really cruel, I'm going to go first because I suspect all of you are going to say the same one as me. So,
but we'll be happy for you.
That like a frog-eyed Sprite, I'm choosing that because whenever I see one coming towards me, I just think to myself, that's got the happiest face, it's got the happiest eyes, and it's a really happy little car. In fact, I will have a frog-eyed Sprite in the next 2 years because I think they're flipping marvelous little things. I'm now going to offer this to Edward Lovett. What's the happiest looking car?
Google agrees with you, Christopher. Google agrees with you. That is obviously the obvious one, and I have got that written down. And I'm not going to say the second one because someone else might come up with that one as well. So I'm going to say bubble cars.
Oh,
that's a good call.
Yeah.
Bubble cars.
Yeah,
they are. The happiness is the happiness in the car, or the fact that you can really see the driver or passenger.
I think it's in the shape. It's
in the shape.
Cute. Yeah.
I did see there's a couple of those microlinos driving around London now, which is made by the same company that do the micro scooters that all the kids walk around with to school. And they're a fun little thing.
I follow them on Instagram. I quite like one of those.
Do you reckon they could get up the Clifton Hill?
No, I'm not sure, especially not with me in it at the moment. No, but I do like the look of that thing. It's clever.
Is it three-wheel or four wheels, that thing?
Four.
Well, there's two small ones on the back, I think.
The original bubble cars, you'd have to be happy if somebody come along and chopped one of your wheels off, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's that or despair.
Okay, so Edward's got bubble cars. Chris Cooper, what are you going to have?
It's got to be Lightning McQueen, hasn't it? He was happy.
Yes.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's not a serious answer.
I need to break this to you softly, Chris. I need to break this to you softly. It's not a real car.
No, but Porsche made the night. No, who was Lightning McQueen's girlfriend?
Sally.
Yeah. They made Sally Porsche.
I actually think I talked to the boys about this, and they said Mark 1 MX-5 is a happy-looking car.
It is.
With the headlights
definitely. Lovely
The
mouth.
headlights up.
Headlights
And
up.
I think
Yeah.
both, there's an advert I saw again, it was a late 90s advert, a Christmas thing that probably British Leyland or BL did. Minis have feelings too.
Yeah.
Yes,
Two
oh
little
God, yeah.
minis did a little sort of heart-shaped sort of shape in the snow and went boop, a little kiss. And I think the R50 Mini, the BMW Mini, is a happy-looking car.
Would you agree, as a Mini aficionado, Chris, sorry to interrupt, would you agree that the original shape Mini, depending on its age and its grille shape, its happiness can change? Like a moustache grille is a bit down at the corners of the mouth, a bit moo.
It
Whereas
is.
some of the other ones are a bit pointier. It all depends on the corner of the mouth, doesn't it?
It does. It depends on that little sort of like trim bit. And somebody will tell us whether that's sort of the early Mark 1 or later one.
Yeah.
But my one hasn't got it. And I think it's all the happier for it.
Good.
Yes. So, yeah, those are my happy cars.
I'm trying to be enduring and connect my two parts of my life. I once told a girlfriend that she had a moustache like a Mark 1 Mini, but it didn't go down very well.
No.
Manish, what would you say is a happy looking car?
It's funny. I'd written down Sprint MX-5. I think the Citroen Diane's quite happy looking.
Yeah.
I think the Hindustan Ambassador is a very happy looking car. You know, the Morris Oxford?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
lovely
yeah.
mouth, the big eyes. But here is my happiest looking car. And it is I want to put this picture up. Who recognizes this?
That's a Renault Dauphin.
That's the Renault Gordini.
Exactly, the Renault Dauphin.
Dauphin.
Such a happy looking car.
Yeah.
That's a happy
You know what
guy.
makes it look so happy is the
That's
engine.
as-
The
that's as
engine's in
happy-
the back, so it's one of the happy looking cars without having a mouth.
Yes.
That's as
what-
happy as that thing you see on Instagram or TikTok of the dogs bounce around with that song here. It's a happy. That's as happy as that is. And in thinking about things that I remember once, Monkey, telling one of the girlfriends of my now wife that she reminded me of Orinoco from the Wombles.
Oh.
She did, though.
In bed.
Girlfriend of your
Or
wife.
just
No.
generally.
We're out somewhere with her and some friends, and I said, "You remind me of somebody," and because I'm a bit weird and on that spectrum, I said, "I've got it. It's Orinoco from the Wombles." She didn't find that funny either. In fact, Lynn will be cringing when I remind her of this story.
It's amazing that you went on to marry her.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, it's her friend. Yeah. So, sorry, I can't remember what name was now, apart from Orinoco. Anyway, so I think that Dauphin is a happy little chap.
It is. In fact, when you think about it, a lot of the small European cars, particularly French and Italian, from the late 50s through to the mid 60s, are happy. An original Cinquecento is a happy little chappy.
It had to be happy because it was that period of rebuilding after the war and sort of start of optimism that there might be happy times ahead. So I just think people felt happy and drew happy.
Neil Clifford?
And I think happy
What's
cars
a happy
are
car?
little cars. They're all little cars. Happy cars.
Little is friendly. Neil Clifford, what's he going to
Yes.
choose?
You're all bloody wrong.
Oh, here we go.
It's all about the eyes, right? I think we're concluding it's all about the eyes, and I think that the circular big eyes equals happiness. It's the original Beetle, for God's sake. Surely that's the happy. I mean, I know in history it didn't really start in a happy place.
Yeah, let's
certainly
let's
its
examine
inventor
that,
was
shall we?
maybe not happy, but the Beetle.
And I say that's why I vetoed that. I mean, it is happy, but its origins are maybe not so happy.
No, but we can't go back and study broader history. We're just here to talk about cars, right? And I just spent a week in Mexico, and there are millions of Beetles because, of course, they were made in Mexico as well.
Yeah, I give you that. Yeah.
And every time you see one, whether it be a new-looking one or an old one or a rusty one, it just brings joy to your face because those big eyes.
Yeah.
So I think it's the original Beetle, and in fact, even the new Beetle, not the third one, because the third one all went a bit golfy, didn't it? But the original new Beetle,
Yes,
where the front is the same as the back,
yeah,
that's super cute. That's a super.
I'll give you that. And Herbie, what do you think of Herbie, Neil? Is he
Herbie's cool.
I've never really engaged in the Herbie movies.
No.
What number
Really?
was Herbie? Can you remember?
53.
51, 51, 53, 53.
53, I think.
Better
No,
just
it
check.
never. I should have got me really.
Edward just did a brilliant impression of the two doctors on that Harry Enfield. 51, 51, 52.
44,
45,
44, 45.
The terrible year.
How long have they been married? 40,
I'm
45?
surprised, Mr. Harris, you haven't gone 2CV.
Yes, you see, but my problem with the 2CV is I love them, but they've got a bit of a beak. They've got a bit of that's not. It's not aggressive looking, but it's not cuddleable to me. Whereas I think a lot of the cars you guys have all mentioned make me want to walk up to them and just hug them.
Well,
It's got a camel's toe.
That's different. That's I think you'll find that's the female.
That's the later in the evening podcast we're going to do. Yes.
we've all been very well behaved and put something forward that's the happiest looking car. Imagine if you're a vehicle designer and you were told from the board, we want you to build the happiest looking
They
car.
should. That's what they should do.
what they should be doing.
Should be
Hang on a minute. When that's happened, let me show you a photo that I found.
No, you can't see it. It's
on the
53.
line.
It's 53. How good are we?
53.
Look
Yeah.
at this. That's what happens when you ask the
Whoa.
like that.
when the instructions come from the board.
What is that?
I couldn't even find
Martian.
what it was called.
I think they should design happy cars. You'd maybe
That's-
buy them.
No, but
That looks like-
no, but on a second, a car, the happiest looking car, or the car that makes you or the pedestrian feel happy. That's a different question.
That thing there, Edward, that reminds me of the clown's face. Outside I'm smiling, inside I'm sad. That's
Mm.
a sad car.
And the clown face reminds us that if you draw a deliberately smiley face, it can be sinister.
Yes,
So
exactly.
there's a danger that
Yeah.
lurks there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, so there we
True
go.
enough.
It's all about the frog-eyed sprite. And
That's a good
very
call,
bra-
actually.
Neil very, very bravely cited the Beetle, and we'll let him have that one.
The
Would you- on the
first of the
frog-eyed sprite-
generation BMW Minis, that was a happy car.
Oh, that's true.
Chris
They
Cooper's
are
already
50,
said
yeah.
that.
Would you
need to
Would you
listen.
have a deep? Would you have a debumpered frog-eye sprite or a bumpered one? I think you'd have a debumpered one.
No, I'd have a bumpered one. I think they look a little bit like someone without a chin. They're missing a chin if they don't have a front bumper.
Okay.
I think that is a great car
Make a
to
note of
acquire a frog eye sprite.
Oh, I'd love one of those.
Lovely,
It'd be fantastic.
lovely.
Just go and find some tall hedged country lanes and stop and have impromptu picnics and go scrumping in people's orchards. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. What?
Gentleman's toilet.
Yes.
Loo.
What? This is the imaginary downstairs bog. Every man wants to have their own throne downstairs, and you can put whatever you want in it. Your photos of your friends, of your conquests, anything. But you've got to have one piece of a car in your perfect downstairs toilet. What piece of a car is it? What does it do in there? It doesn't have to do anything, but what does it do in there? And what is it? So I'm going to go straight to Edward, who's going to tell us about his imaginary downstairs shitter.
I think I've gone in a slightly different direction.
Did you read any of this, Edward?
There's a surprise.
I did. I've gone a slight. I've been. Bear in mind, these topics came out last night. It is the weekend. We're filming on a Sunday afternoon, evening, and I've been with my 3 children all weekend. So I've scrabbled to do this. Anyway, my downstairs loo. It's got 3 things from a car, not one thing. I hope that's okay. But Chris Cooper has made it very clear we can break the rules.
Just before you start, you said yesterday evening. I sent them at 2:15 yesterday afternoon.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. Well, it's the same. So central locking is the first thing, because obviously if you've popped in to do a number 1, then you can keep the door unlocked. But if that changes, you want to lock it, and if you're too far from the door,
I see where you've gone with this. It's a good interpretation. It's a good interpretation. I like it.
You need central locking.
Yeah.
With that, you also need a sunroof. So I've also got a sunroof installed because obviously once you've locked it, you might need to air.
This is a much better way of answering the question, Edward. You excelled
I've got a
yourself.
sunroof, and then finally, probably under the sink, I've got a glove box for my mincing cars.
Wonderful! Oh, brilliant! Right. Well, I wish everyone would interpret these topics in that way. That was marvelous. Neil Clifford.
I finally found a use for a fucking cup holder.
Ah!
They're going to hold the bog roll,
Yeah.
right? A Porsche 991, probably the 991 cup holders are probably the best cup holders, actually, but
They are.
the redundant cup holders will be stripped from any car possible that I would never use such a awful item, and I would create bog roll holders onto the wall of
That's the
numerous
business
different
right there.
holders. Yes, exactly.
Oh, we've killed two birds with one stone
On
there. haven't we?
fire.
We've got
Would you
Neil.
have a little sort of cassette thing that went into the bog wall, so that, because otherwise you might get up from business and knock it off the wall. So I think a little sort of cassette thing would be.
Maybe. I'm always confused which way round the toilet roll should roll. Should it be rolled forward, isn't it? Forward. I always thought it was the other way round.
Why can someone explain to me why it should be forwards? Is that just a little bit of OCD, or is that?
No, because I always thought it rolled from the back.
Yeah.
But it isn't. It actually is forwards.
Forward. You can tear it.
I'm not sure there's any rules to this, Neil. I think whatever makes you feel most comfortable.
I think it's.
I get told off for doing it the wrong way.
Yeah.
And anyone that's just joined us at that moment, Neil Clifford is talking about toilet roll, nothing else.
Yeah. That's an interesting question. I have to say, I think it's aesthetically forwards, but my OCD
is backwards.
Prefers the one where it's sort of against the wall.
Why?
Yes. Because it looks neater. It looks less disruptive. Neater. Yeah, less. You see, I think that's other way around.
I think that looks better. You see.
Yeah, so do I. I'm with Neil.
It's harder for the hotelier, though, for the ladies in the hotel rooms, ladies and gentlemen. If you're trying to make the do the little cross or the arrow, if you're doing it the other way, it's not going to work, is it?
Well, you can do the arrow both ways.
You can do the arrow both ways. You just have to fold it against itself from behind. Monkey.
Yeah.
God's sake.
So cup holders, bog roll holders, perfect.
If you just leave him 2 minutes without talking.
For those of you who are only listening, Chris demonstrated the undemonstratable. Fortunately, fully clothed.
Really good. Look at that. The good neck position.
Will you just stop looking at the camera?
Do you go under the carriage?
Yeah, let's be careful on that one.
Oh my!
Right. So, Edward Lovett, a good interpretation. Neil Clifford, another brilliantly bizarre interpretation. Manish, will you answer the question as I posed it, please?
I really can't. I went down the Ed Lovett category. I thought if I can use a bit of a car to do something,
it's good. Off you go.
My serious one was that I would like a Countach exhaust muffler fashioned into my flush.
Yes.
And what I want the gear stick from it, including the 6-gate, to actually be the flush.
Would that be for different levels of flush? Would sort of first gear
so
be...
You would gate 1 for a wee, and obviously gate 2. You put it into second gear.
And fifth gear would be, a bit of a heavy night.
Given the manager's a medical man, 1 is a wee and number 2 is for motion.
For emotion. About emotion. And then I just thought... You could have 2 little mini spotlights overhead, couldn't you? You go into your loo, switch it on. You just literally light yourself in this beautiful little...
So you'd have a Corello or a Sibi Oscar or some... So when a gentleman...
No, we would have a KC Daylighter, of course he would.
Yeah. I think you'd have all 3.
Would you? Not that I smoke, but actually I thought it'd be quite cool to have something like a Mulsanne cigar ashtray just to the right in case you did while you're reading Private Eye on Sunday morning.
Actually, now I found CarPlay. I think I'm going to try a cigar in the gentleman's loo downstairs as well.
Smoking on the bob, that's pretty niche, isn't it?
That is niche.
Yeah.
Chris Cooper, what are you going to
there's a I'm kind of with the guys on this one. I think there's, particularly if we're in Manish's 5th gear, you're going to need a powerful extractor. So I think I'd have a Rotax 100cc kart engine driven extractor fan, or one of those beautiful miniature V12 engines that bloke made at 1/4 scale Ferrari 312, whatever, a few years ago. And you'd have it behind, you couldn't have the thing there, it'd be too bloody noisy. You'd have it behind a glass screen. And so semi-soundproof, so you could still hear the whole thing.
So it would look like a dyno room from your toilet.
It would exactly look like a dyno room. And you would have the little key thing, and you'd have a throttle mechanism. And depending on whether the gentleman was standing or sitting, you'd have to have different throttle mechanisms. But you could be sitting there on the...
You specified that you were at Manish's Gear 5 and we're still standing up. This does seem medieval.
Yeah, sometimes there's only just enough time.
Okay.
So you'd have a throttle. So as one was completing the motion, and we'd retrieved from the Porsche cup holder Neil's beautifully presented loo paper. Exactly. You'd just turn around and just turn the key to the starting position, give a couple of blips of the throttle, and the Rotax racing kart engine, or the V12 miniature, would fire up and would be just sucking all of the air out, and you could just give it a bap, 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 and you could feel the induction playing around your naked lower legs. I think that'd be wonderful.
Nice.
I think you might die of hypoxia.
No, because it'd be
going to be
exhausting
like Chitty Bang Bang when he makes the hair cutting machine. We're going to make it perfect.
Arthur Mullard, do you remember?
Yeah.
Would you use a generous oil to fuel mixture in that two-stroke, or would you go skinny on it?
I think you'd lean it off a bit. I think you'd really, really want full power.
Yep. Engine life can go to hell, can't it?
Just a rebuild. It's just a rebuild.
Right. This has got completely out of control. When I answer my own question, you realise how utterly mundane the question was in the first place. So I'm a big fan. I don't like trendy toilets. I think I like a toilet like I had at school, good old fashioned toilet, I like a cistern. So I don't like them when when they're hidden behind boards and you've got a horizontal, so you've got a vertical button thing to push. I don't like that.
It's just going to go wrong.
I want a cistern and a handle for me. And I've always thought, yes, it's an embarrassing admission, I've always thought that the cistern top was the bit that would be easy to replace and make it with something from the car world. And I can't think of any better than having a good old-fashioned bit of armated shanks from the 50s. And you take the cistern top off, and it's an Alpha twin cam head just sitting there.
Oh, nice.
That's a really good. I like that idea.
Red writing. Would suit me. That would be the centerpiece of my gentleman's throne room. And it's nothing like as amusing as your answers. All of you quite brilliant today. Theatrical even. Really, really good. Especially you, Lovett. Really good. Great work.
Yeah.
Here we go.
But there's a business in yours. There is a shop on Fulham Road or somewhere in the posh end of town where Edward lives, that some bloke now is running to the local scrapyard, trying to find V6 heads from an Alpha.
Sure, it's not that shop in the Harry Enfield episodes.
I saw you coming.
What's that called?
That's very good, yeah.
I saw you coming, yeah. More than wank.
Wank.
That's good, yeah.
Car key rings, key fobs.
Ooh.
I think these are dying because the car key has become something the size of a telephone. And actually the fob is something that's forgotten now because you don't need it to locate where your keys are because the thing's so big in your pocket anyway. But I love a car key ring. I love what they stand for. I love the fact they were recycled. I love the way people who've got multiple cars treat car key rings and the importance they attach to them. They're just nice bits of innocent jewelry. What do you think, Manish?
So I had to do a teeny bit of Googling here. And of course, you're absolutely right. The beauty was in the design and the size. They were just so fantastically innocuous. It was almost as if only you knew. And they weren't the kind of thing you get in a Harry Enfield show where you'd slap it on a bar and say, I drive at this because the girl will be squinting. And now it really is. It's a Yorkie bar, isn't it? You walk around with. But worse, I've seen the kind of car key rings that people can buy. Have you seen some of the stuff that's out there from Formula One cars, sort of naff pseudo Mercedes car key rings? I think so. I think aesthetically, the one that actually did it for me, I found a beautiful. It was an Alfa Romeo car keyring, just beautifully round, like the old Alfa badge. I mean, it can't be. It's not even an inch in diameter. I would say it's something like 3/4 of an inch in diameter. I can just imagine that with your sort of 1960s, 70s Alfa. Have to be a nice, even if you had a Montreal, you'd have this teeny tiny key ring, about 9 links, and you would know what it was. So modern car key rings, anything that you can buy aftermarket, but anything you could buy from the 70s, 60s, 50s, I'm in.
Edward Lovett, I bet you don't care about these things at all, do you? Oh, there we go.
You guy.
That's the so the kids' school photo. This is the only key. This is the only thing that has stayed with all my keys. I was given this at the Retromobile about 20 years ago, and this is the bolt that holds the piston on the crankshaft of a Ferrari Formula One car, and used in a race. I've got that, and then my wife, who is from Hong Kong, gives me a piece of jade to protect me from all evil things.
Oh, nice.
There
So
we go.
I like
that. Looks like a tiny sex toy, if I might say.
No, well, it's not. It's something significant.
I have to say, Edward, you're on very good form this evening.
Well,
That's
thank
nice,
you. These are my office keys, by the way, which weigh, and I've got my car keys. So
yeah, see, that's
these
the problem,
are a problem.
Yeah,
but I love something that goes from keyring to keyring with either your favorite car, and obviously being a car dealer, you give people a brand new BMW fob with, and we used to have our telephone number in the back of it, but actually to disassemble those in front of the salesman and put on your only importing keyring is quite a nice thing in front of them.
We always rent the same car from the same car company when we go to Tobago. And whenever he meets us at the airport, he always gives us a little Trinidadian flag. It is exactly that. It's 3/4 of an inch in length, 1/2 an inch wide. And we've got 40 of them. So I will be giving them out.
I like that. No, Clifford, you love everything about cars. You love the detail of cars. Have we found the one thing you don't care about?
I don't like key rings. I think they're superfluous. I can't see the point of them. I don't like them.
That's the word.
I don't like them. I think the only things that I can tolerate is if it came with the car from new and it's the badge of the brand. You know, I adore our friend Matthew Beard, but if you buy a car from Dick Lovett, you get this bloody black leather thing that gets attached to the car that's got Dick Lovett written on. And it's very generous of him, and he'll make me an espresso. And, you know, he's the loveliest car salesman in the United Kingdom. But the minute I get in the car, I take it off.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't like any.
There you go.
Actually, I've stupidly, wrongly decided sometimes, you know, you're at the Porsche factory and you go to that shop, the museum shop, and they've got all those little key rings made out of all the old fabric from the 70s. And you, look at that, it's amazing. And you buy about 3 of them and you get them home and you're like, what the fuck did I buy that for? I don't even like it. I'm not putting that on a key. So I don't like key rings. I think the key is enough, unless it's a very simple brand badge of the Porsche, or as Manish says, the Alfa Romeo. And that's it. Anything more snazzy, I don't like.
Neil, did you know that I think Apple Play they've got something it's either prototypical or it's actually out there, but they're going to replace your car key with this thing to start with.
They're not going to.
No, they're not.
I thought they were, and it says that it works for 6 hours even if your phone runs out of charge.
They can have my key. They can take it from my cold, dead hand.
There we go. So, Chris Cooper, a key ring.
Well, I discussed this with Lynn last night at this dinner we were at, and she said, you hate key rings. And I said, it's quite strong. And she said, you do, because every time a new car, hers or mine, arrives, the first thing you do is take the keyring off the key.
Take it off. Yeah.
Take it off. Because the key's big enough, and maybe because I'm dyspraxic or something, metal things, dyspraxic people don't like metal things in their hands and pockets. So it's just too much metal in your pocket, and I don't like that. But there's something lovely about that little drawer in the study where all of these discarded key rings still live long after the car has disappeared. And it's a little happy reminder. So Prophets of Gerrard's Cross.
Yeah.
Rivervale of Brighton.
Yeah.
Hughes of Beaconsfield.
Yep.
These sort of slightly, actually, they're not tatty, they're completely pristine because they've sat in there since the day that the car arrived and long after it went. So I kind of like the nostalgia and that little sort of happy moment of seeing the Prophets of Gerrard's Cross, where I got, when we'll talk about this later on sometime, aren't we, about sort of the cars that have just got under our skin. There was a E39 540 that I got from Prophets of Gerrard's Cross, now Sytner of High Wycombe, I think, isn't it? And I quite like that. But the idea of a keyring, and those things where there's a little carabiner and you clip it onto your belt loop of your trout. No. So just the key, not even the little extra circle thing, the little sort of spring. No, just the key and a drawer in the study with all of these old dealer identities, particularly the ones that don't exist anymore. That's where they should stay.
Good God, I thought I was going to find some more positivity here, but I really am struggling. I love a keyring, and I've got one quirk of keyrings, and that is for any number of vehicles. When I have multiple vehicles in my ownership, I will swap the keyrings round so that the cheapest car has the keyring from the most expensive car always. So if I have a Ferrari, then the Ferrari keyring always goes with the 2CV key, and the 2CV keyring or the shittest keyring always goes with my best car. So my 991 key normally has a fake bottle opener that's got a Renault Fuego hologram underneath. So but I do like them, and I think Chris is right. He's probably, as ever, he's just reminded me what it is I like about them. I do have a box full of them, but they have keys attached to them. And if
I've got the key I never gave back attached to them. Yeah,
but yes, no, I have the keys and the key rings. But what I do is when I open that box to get something out, I never just open it and take one key out and put the lid back on again. I'm there for a long time.
Exactly,
and I'm reminded of stories. But I do like having the key ring on the key. I like feeling into my pocket. And there's one key fob that I love of all others. I still love a G Series Porsche with the old key with the light button on it. When you do the expensive one, you got the leather pouch. Remember the pouch with the pouch? Yeah. I never had one of those, but I would have loved one of those.
That's nice.
You can buy them at the Porsche shop.
Can you?
Yeah, but that's not original. It's different quality leather. The 959 had the pouch.
They were soft.
Yeah,
very soft.
There's one key fob, and it's a brand that's been mentioned so much recently. It's Alpina. If you bought an Alpina in the 90s or noughties, in a really beautiful nod to the fact that Alpina was effectively a BMW, but with more beauty and care attached to it. The BMW key fob was removed, and what they gave you was something that was exactly the same diameter, but it was thinner, and it was made of a beautiful Napa leather that was soft and waxy, and it had an Alpina, the Alpina logo. Some of those were stunning. That's a good one. But I'm talking about the actual key fob.
I know. I was just trying to find one.
My Alpina key fob sits on the lawn. It's on the lawnmower key because it's probably the nicest one I've got.
That's cool. Yeah. Okay.
But I remember when I first had one of those in my hand, thinking, "Oh, it's lovely." And I suppose also it's the key. We've talked about key design, but the key fob was another way for the car maker to remind you of how special it wants to make you feel. Yeah. And if it was of a very high quality material, or it's interesting, or it felt different in your pocket, I like the effort that gone into it. And I'm so sad that my fellow addicts, not all of you, can see the joy in these things. Neil Clifford's actually switched off. Neil, wake up.
No. I'm just trying to ignite my excitement for key fobs.
Yeah,
there must be something in there.
I bet you've got a good hoard of them somewhere.
I chuck them away.
What?
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
in
I'm
any
not with
way
that.
emotional about keyrings. I just if
He
they
must have been so happy when that Aston Martin man decided to just do the little block key that you had to push in the dash. You couldn't attach anything to it.
I've never had one of those glass things.
Emotional control units.
No.
ECU. Right, here we go. So this is a random one, but I quite like the idea of it. If you had to pick one racing driver to be prime minister, who would it be? Manish.
So, two-part answer. As you know, I'm a massive Senna fan, and a lot of people talked about what would have happened if he'd have lived beyond a motor racing career. And there was much speculation that he would have been a future president of Brazil.
Mm.
And it was on the basis of kind of, all the qualities he had as a racing driver. Of course, he could be phenomenally selfish, which you kind of need to be for your country. He was very bright. He could bring a team together. He had enormous integrity. He had a kind of righteous anger. These are all fantastic qualities, I think, in leaders. And then also the big thing he had was enormous compassion, huge empathy, because I think that's the thing that's often really missing in leaders. Somebody could be of different class to you, different sex, have completely different educational background, different skill set. But I think what great leaders had an ability to do was to empathize with their electorate. And the final thing that I think, the great final quality is whether people are of your politics or not. It's the idea that you bring people together. That's a really big thing. And I think, really good racing driver, he makes the team come around him. That's what he does, and you want to stay up all night fixing Senna's engine because, he's going to pay you back in the morning. You're going to, he's so obsessive. You're going to be super obsessive when you do anything on his car. So what he does is he just elevates the whole team. And I think that's what you really, really need in a great prime minister. And I was trying to think, it's prime minister you put down here. So I think, you're obviously alluding to who would have been a great British prime minister. And I think it would be quite tough to argue it would be somebody like Prost post-Brexit. That would have been quite an amusing prime minister. But I was thinking, who for me is sort of one of the great British or British Empire drivers, somebody who had all of the qualities I've just described, somebody who could really build a team, somebody who could get people right around him. And if it was, weirdly, I came up with two Antipodean drivers. I think either Bruce McLaren, or I think Sir Jack Brabham.
Yeah.
I think they'd have made really awesome prime ministers. I really do. Assuming we could get them pre-colonial British passports, because they said of Bruce McLaren, he was the kind of man that everybody would just follow through the desert if he said, "Let's go." And Jack Brabham, was a man who built a team, but there was something galvanizing about him as a human being, just like Bruce. You wanted to follow him. So Prime Minister Brabham or Prime Minister McLaren for me.
I can agree with all of those. And actually, the Prime Minister bit, maybe that was poor. Maybe I should be President. I'm not saying that we have to take someone from another country and insert them to lead the United Kingdom. But I think all of those answers stand. Edward Lovett.
No, I'm not following Manish. My answer's ridiculous, but give it to someone else.
I can follow
over to you, Chris Cooper.
So I can follow that. David Coulthard.
Go on then.
David Coulthard, because he'd initially look the part. He'd be good in a suit.
Yeah.
And he'd look okay at the podium. I had this conversation with Cameron via text yesterday. I was thinking about it. But then he'd open his mouth and he'd just be stupid and silly and funny. So I think we'd need a bit of fun there. So I've taken a slightly different approach to you, Manish. So, but when I pulled the string marked David Coulthard, no one's ever said that out loud before. When I pulled the string marked David Coulthard, you get to Eddie Irvine.
Yeah, he's lovely.
You get to Eddie Irvine. And for lots of totally random coincidental reasons, I've got lots of Eddie Irvine stories from people who worked with him or lived with him. A mate of mine was his flatmate in Oxford in the late 90s. None of those stories are tellable now here in this medium. But if he was prime minister, he would have made Boris and Silvio Berlusconi look tame and half-hearted and sort of not really trying very hard to be debauched or whatever. I think, Eddie, if you're watching this, which you won't be, I think he still lives in the Bahamas. I think he lives in the Bahamas.
I think he's having a little bit more fun than watching this, probably.
I think he is having a lot more fun. That's exactly right, because my mate Malcolm, Australian bloke in motor racing, who worked at BAR and then at Jaguar, he's now retired back to Australia. He was with him a couple of Christmases ago. And he called me and said, I'm in the Bahamas in Eddie's house. I said, oh, wow, it's amazing. I said, how is he? He said, exactly the same as he was 25 years ago. I said, when you say exactly the same, do you mean he's still dating 19-year-old girls? He said, yes. I'm pretty sure he's dating the daughters of the mothers he dated 25 years ago. So I think Eddie as prime minister would be hilarious. But if we had to choose a semi-serious one, and it's a slightly sort of because
you don't have to be serious.
He's a chum and a colleague. And I was with him at this event last night. I was at dinner with him last night, and we were talking about this. And he was sat next to me, and I said, "It's you, Karun Chanduk. Step forward. I think Karun for PM."
There we go.
I said, I'll be your campaign manager. When it all goes tits up next year, Karun, we're putting you forward. So,
Second Indian PM. Because that would just be. Then I'll start.
Edward Lovett, I'm putting you on the spot now.
I don't give a shit. I'm going for a shit.
Gimme
for president.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. That'd be brilliant.
Unbelievable.
That's my answer. No context. Move on.
Can you imagine Kimmy in Prime Minister's question time with his overalls wrapped around his waist, eating ice cream as Keir Starmer lays in bed?
Yeah,
just literally doing this. And what does my right honourable colleague have to say about that? I don't give a shit.
Don't give a shit.
You know.
Neil Clifford.
My brilliant dyslexia read this question completely the opposite way round, and I read it. What prime minister would be a great racing driver?
This is much better, better.
But actually, I'm not so sure I've answered it correctly.
You still got it wrong.
One of my favourite prime ministers, my second favourite, let's say, I won't mention the first, is John Major.
Yeah.
And you know what? John Major at the time was sort of ridiculed as not being such a great prime minister because he came, he went after someone that had been there a long time and was also, in my view, very good. And he was, he had a bit of a shitty end of the stick, frankly. But you know what? And I'm talking more about prime ministers. I'm not sure if this fits the DNA of a racing driver, but anyway, he was a listener. He had brains. He had low ego. He had integrity. He had honesty. He cared about the country more than himself. Many attributes that, frankly, we could do with a prime minister nowadays. I'm not so sure that makes a good Formula One driver. But anyway, for me, John Major is Nigel Mansell. I think they almost sort of slightly look like.
I think they're related.
I think they're related. And the other thing about John Major, clearly nothing to do with this question whatsoever. When you watch that beautiful, and I make my kids sit down there without their bloody phones for 45 minutes and watch the remembrance service, and then the prime ministers come out and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe she was bloody prime minister for 10 minutes. And you have all those thoughts. John Major hasn't aged a bit.
No.
He looked 90 when he was 40.
He did.
But that's
he did.
That's another thing that I struggle with, because of course, when you lose your hair age 22, you're very old, very young, which actually John Major didn't lose his hair. So I'm talking about baldness as opposed to John Major now. I'm going really off-piste. But suddenly, when you become old, people don't think you're old anymore because you've looked the same from your 20s. It's quite fascinating.
Yeah, because he ran away from the circus to be an accountant, didn't he?
You did. Maybe, I'm not so sure we can fit baldness into the podcast questions at some point. But anyway, John Major and Nigel Mansell, maybe that would be a good combo together to run the country.
I think in a Williams or a race team. Well, who's he driving for? Who's he driving for, Neil?
Oh, Ferrari's the only team you want to drive for, isn't it?
Right. So this is a wonderfully bizarre podcast. In answer to my question, if you had to pick a racing driver to be Prime Minister, who would it be? We've got John Major driving a Ferrari. Okay, so I probably asked this because there's one person who I've always wished ended up in a position of political power, be it through conventional politics or motorsport politics, and it's Ari Vatanen.
Yeah.
Every time I've heard him speak, every time just hearing his voice, I'm almost like the Bisto kid. I do what he said. I just think he's a man of immense integrity, humanity. It's the greatest shame for the sport that we love that he was never the president of the FIA. For me, he's just he's a great human being, and I just think he would be fantastic in any role of power. Sadly, I think that's passed him by, and he's probably had enough, and he doesn't want to do it. But Ari, you wouldn't listen to this, but you're the man, and I wish. I mean, he demonstrates some of the qualities that all four of you have mentioned already. He seems to have in spades. He's just a remarkable bloke, and also anyone that could get through that bloody bridge on the Isle of Man in a Manta 400 with a puncture is
survive that accident.
Or was it in a Ascona? I can't remember. Was
Manta
it
400? Manta 400. And he had that awful accident in the T16 in Argentina.
Yes,
that nearly did for him. We met him when we were in Motorsport UK when we got the two candidates for the current FIA president to come for hustings. And Ari was in the country, so he came along to watch. And I asked him, said, no chance, I suppose. He said, no. I kind of been there. And he's now because obviously he and David Richards are obviously, because they were world champions together, very good friends. And Ari is,
he's the man.
Legend.
He's the man.
He's the man.
Mm.
Right, we're now moving on to our two-car garage, which was in the comments section. So someone else had to read it because I don't read the comments.
Can I read it?
Would you like? Yeah, Chris, you read it. Let's hear your dulcet tones rather than.
So this is from Adam B7. So Adam, thank you very much. And I like to think that the B7 shows that you are one of us when it comes to
Alpina.
So you are an AM racing driver, between 30 and 40 years old. You consider yourself quite handy with a front-wheel drive car, but unfortunately not experienced at all in a rear-wheel driven vehicle. You'd like to learn the art of skidding. So you need something fun to satisfy your front-wheel drive nature, brackets. The French and Japanese make you feel particularly excited, and something RWD, rear-wheel drive, to fill that missing gap in your life. One of them must also fit the wife and the child. Budget, €100,000, which this morning equaled 88,000 of our pounds.
Oh, so rigorous.
Do you mind if I step in? Because I'm going to have to go because I have 3 young children and my wife has to go to a birthday on a Sunday evening.
Edward, give us your choices now.
I've gone for a Civic Type R, the latest one, because that's a larger 4-door, so that can deal with the family needs and the front-wheel drive. And then I'm going to go for what the king of drifting drives, which is a GT86.
Yeah.
Nice.
The new one or the old one?
The latest one.
The latest one. They're going for overs. They're good news, aren't they?
They are good news. Good drifter, that one. Good drifter.
Yeah. Okay, off you go, Edward.
I'm going to have to leave, and I'm going. My song is quite quirky this week, but I heard it. It's a terrible song, the original one. It's called Prada by Ray, but she's launched a acoustic version this week, and her voice is quite remarkable.
Okay.
It will be in the list. See you all later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
He's gone. Go on, get out. Bye.
Yeah.
He's gone. Right. Let's go for two-car garage from Chris Cooper.
So I think if you're going to become a skidding king, you got to have a low revving V8, lots of torque.
When you say skidding, do you?
Yeah, I mean that kind of skidding. Yeah.
Okay.
Long black marks. Yeah. So I think you need a low revving, easy motion that would leave that long mark. So you need a V8. So you get yourself one of those. That is, it's a replica. We'll put the proper picture up. It's one of those Hawk replicas of an AC Cobra 289. It's got a Rover V8 in it, but it's all pucker. And I think short wheelbase, low revving V8. If that doesn't make you a skidding god, I don't know what would. Brilliantly. And I found this I went to Collecting Cars, as ever, the font of all goodness, and I found that.
There you go.
It's a Sorrento green. Sorrento green 205 GTI. It went for about 20-something thousand a year or so ago. It's got that beautiful green cloth inside.
Yeah.
So whoever bought that, please let us know and we'll buy it back. So I think Adam B7, you'd have that beautiful Hawk AC Ace and a Sorrento green GTI, and the wife and the child would be very happy with you.
Manish.
Front wheel drive, I went on to Collecting Cars and I found my favorite Golf, the GTI Edition 30. And you guys had one on there with just 31,000 miles for £12,001. And I think this is just a
nice car.
Mark 5, yeah.
Very good car.
And I think he'd be quite happy with that front wheel drive. Look at the interior. Look at that. That
manual.
So nice. That's a manual. And I'm afraid I read that's £100,000, not €100,000. So it's not.
Sorry, Adam.
But I am sorry. But I would go. I don't know how this thing would drift, but I spoke to a friend of mine who races these things, and he just said, "You want a rear-wheel drive car? You know, I'm a little bit in love with these, but it's the Lotus Exige Cup, the 430." And there was one with 5,500 miles for £89,950. So I'd have been £1,000 over. I mean, look at this. You want this, don't you?
If he can drift that,
it's a great car. But if you learn to drift,
I know he's not going to drift that. I know.
That's like
the engine's in the wrong place. I know.
That's like saying, I bought an aquarium. I want to fish. Shall I get a great white?
Yeah.
No, all I could see in that is, I want a rear-wheel drive car to go.
Okay, absolutely fair enough.
Very quickly.
So Manish has decided he wants to die the moment it rains. Neil Clifford, what would you have?
I would. My favourite front-wheel drive car is a Peugeot 205 GTI 1.9. And I'd like to, and I don't actually know how much they cost, these bloody things. The Tolman one.
120.
How
I
much?
don't know whether they're 80 grand or
120.
50 grand. They're stupid price, aren't they?
Yeah.
120. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will.
£120,000.
Yeah. And I looked.
Yeah. And so I would do a copy of the Tolman, the Clifford. Mine did have a Clifford sticker, but it was the alarm.
Yeah.
Yes.
But anyway,
I always thought that was you.
It could have been. And I'd buy a really good one.
I thought it was you they were singing about on the Listerine advert. Oh, Clifford!
Well, Clifford the big red dog, even. So I would buy one for 20 grand, and then I'd spend another 20 grand making it the best one in the world, but not as good as a Tolman one, but at a fifth of the price. And then I would have, and I'd love to learn how to drift. And one day Mr. Harris will show me. And I was thinking, what would I do it in? I think it would have to be a V8.
Yeah.
But I've got to find a thing for the kid and the wife a little bit in this car. So I'd have an M3 E90 V8 manual, because BMWs are the nicest cars to drive, really, in terms of balance, steering, V8 manual. I've saved myself probably 20 or 30 grand, so I could get the best versions of both those cars in the world.
Good choice.
Good choices here. I can agree with that. I'd say that my BMW M Geek hat on, the E90 series V8s don't have that much torque. And actually, if you want to get them sliding, you've got to be a bit brutal with them. So I'd go for the new M2. My video is going to be out on the site soon on that. No one likes it, and anything that no one likes makes me like it even more.
Yeah, I'm with that. Yeah.
It's a fantastic motor car to live with every day. So he can get his child in, the missus will be happy. It's got Apple CarPlay, so Neil will be happy. It's a new car, so it's covered by warranty. So actually, you can do all your drift training for the first 3 years for free. When you do a diff, you can blame that on BMW. So you're all covered under warranty. And I think it's a fantastic car. It really
Can they
is.
not spot things like that when you take it into the garage?
No, they never check.
No, if you put new tyres on it, a differential doesn't say I've been used hard, Manish. It's in case. So I would, and the hatchback is interesting for me because I've nicked this M2 because list was like 80 odd grand. I've just paid 61 for it, which is very lucky, I think.
Yeah.
There's the most obvious hatchback is the one that Manish chose is the Golf GTI, and I'm knocking around in 100,000 mile Mark 7 at the moment, and it continues to draw me in. It's just a lovely, lovely motor car, but it's obvious, and I've talked about it too much. So sadly, the Golf's got to go on the back burner for now. It is the most fun hot hatch that I've driven. Comes from the country that I think has made more great hot hatches than them all, and that is France. It's the Megane RS 280, so it's the last shape they made.
Yeah,
300 with more power and a cup chassis, but those have paddles. The 280 you could buy. It was the last one you could buy as a manual, and it's a really, really spectacular motor car. I think they look fantastic on the road. So for me,
Adam would love that.
And Megane RS 280. Let's do some quick music before we have to go away. Edward had given us Prada by Ray, but I gather an acoustic version. So we'll have to listen to that. Manish, what are you going for?
It is Diwali today. Happy Diwali, everyone. It's a Bollywood song from the biggest Bollywood movie of 20 years ago, which actually made it out to the UK and did very well. And the song is called Kabhi Khushi, Kabhi Gham, sometimes happy, sometimes sad. Very beautiful song, sung by Lata Mangeshkar, who was the Indian Nightingale. Most beautiful voice.
Right, I'm going to Shazam that straight away and listen to it. Neil Clifford.
Crowded House, Weather With You.
Oh,
great song for the car, singing.
Great song.
Chris Cooper.
So I wanted something happy, and it's a bit of a Philistine's choice, but I absolutely love it in the car because this is about music in the car. So the song "This Is the Greatest Show" from The Showman.
Oh, it's a great song.
It's a great song.
Also, musicals in cars work so well.
They do. Joseph.
So well.
I could do the whole of Joseph all the way to Devon.
Yeah.
Just yelling. You know, when you get there and the windscreens, you think, what's on the inside of my windscreen? Oh, that's my spit from singing so much.
Singing. Yeah.
So I do love a sporting documentary, right? And I think there are three that are the best. One of them, a man was heavily involved in on this podcast, Manish and Senna. But there are two others that stand tall for me. There's Living with Lions, which is the epic of the '97 Lions tour.
Yeah, that one
is extraordinary.
Brilliant.
And Wonderwall is the song of that. But that's not my choice for this. This is the other sporting biography that I just cannot get my head around. It's so brilliant. Is When We Were Kings, which is about the rumble in the jungle. And there's a theme tune that runs at the very end of it. Where they just show still pictures, most of them sepia, black and white, of Muhammad Ali's career and also his just what he achieved as a man. And the song they played to it is a theme tune, "When We Were Kings," and it was by, I have to read it because I don't even know it's by Brian McKnight and Diana King. And it's one of those rare tunes that if you watch it with the footage that they used on the film, that can make you laugh and cry at the same time because you feel this immense human being, you feel uplifted, but then you think, he's not here anymore, and we might not see his like again. So When We Were Kings, either watch When We Were Kings or just listen to it in your car. It's great.
That's a good one.
Thank you very much for listening to episode 41 of the Collecting Addicts podcast. Edward Lovett left the room a while ago, but we still love him. Manish Pandey was there as well. Chris Cooper was there as well. And Neil Clifford, who doesn't like keyrings, was there as well.